coming. So forget I just said promise. But before we get into anything, I do want to say we are brought to you as always by Picasso's Pizza. They've been serving up delicious pizza in Buffalo for 4 generations now. So you should make sure that you go out and support them and all the other local businesses, especially Picasso's though, because they shipped me some pizza for game day. They ship it nationwide. So if you're not in Buffalo anymore like me, you don't have an excuse. Get some Picasso's, celebrate game day, celebrate the Bills. Very special Titans crossover episode. As always, I'm joined by Kevin Masari, and right now we got Tyler from Locked On Titans. Tyler, thank you so much for being here, man. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, not a problem at all. Thanks for having me on. Excited to actually talk some football, hopefully, that takes place. You don't want to, get too far in or count your chickens before they hatch or anything. But yeah, glad to be on and talk some ball.
Hell yeah. And, you said football, so, we'll start out with, that elephant in the room is that, everybody knows that the Titans are kind of the epicenter of the NFL's first breakout of COVID-19. I haven't loved how the players have kind of responded to it personally, but we won't get into that too much. More what we're looking for from you is, how is, I know the GM made some comments earlier, said that if he said people were wearing masks the entire time, that wouldn't be 100% truthful or something to that effect. So, what is it looking like for people who could be inactive, active for game day? I know there's a really long list, but, why don't you give us whatever insight you can on that?
Well, taking a look at the people, at least the COVID impacted players that you would say the Titans are going to get the first round of players who started testing positive when this all kind of kicked off at the beginning of the month. So a guy like starting defensive tackle Daquan Jones, long snapper Bo Brinkley would also be available to the team. So those are some guys who may be able to get back into it. Timing wise, of course, tomorrow is a new day, so that would be a new day on the timer for some of the guys who tested early. Maybe a guy like Kamale Correa, outside linebacker, he's a back, of course, and then the biggest name out of everyone involved would be rookie cornerback Christian Fulton. If he is one of these guys who has been asymptomatic and with the timing can come off the list for game day and they're willing to put him into the game on the active 48, then he could have a big impact on the game because he might be, at this point in time, the Titans' best cornerback, certainly not the most experienced, but he could be a great addition to the Titans defense who's been struggling in the secondary, get him back into the lineup to play slot cornerback and probably some outside cornerback as well. So that would be big against the Bills for obvious reasons. But those are the players that are impacted by, the virus and the situation in Tennessee that could still be in the game and look like they have a shot to play.
Yeah, no, I know Fulton's would be a big name to come off. I think the timing's like right on the borderline there. As a rookie,
right,
would you be comfortable playing him off of conceivably 2 weeks of no practice? Do you think he could be able to take that workload? I mean, you're talking about having to cover potentially John Brown / Cole Beasley, depending on what. If they do line him in the slot, then it'll be on Cole Beasley the majority of the game. If not, you look at a guy like John Brown. Maybe even if he's your top guy, they could stick on Stephon Diggs if that was still their plan. Do you think that they could trust him with that kind of workload off of literally no practices? Or would you, as someone who covers their team, say, well, we probably maybe make him active on game day, maybe give him a little reduced workload? So what's your opinion on that, especially for a rookie?
Okay, this is funny because it's something that I've actually addressed on my Twitter at TitTechTitans. It's not a popular opinion probably amongst the fan base, but in my opinion, this isn't just about Christian Fulton. This is about all of these players. Even some of the Titans players who were out of the game for injury, not related to the COVID-19 outbreak. Mm-hmm. I think that there's, especially in a limited season with a limited off season, really is what I mean, limited training camp, no preseason, all of those factors, it's already an increased risk for injury. We're seeing a ton of injuries around the NFL, Achilles, ACLs. It feels like a lot more. I haven't seen anybody actually put the numbers out of the injury rate at this time, but it just feels like there's a lot of injuries related to, soft tissue and some of those tendons and things like that. So I think in general, not just with Fulton being a rookie, because that, as for him being a rookie, that doesn't bother me. The
Okay.
timing, we need him to play. His talent is so important that if he can play, whether he's mentally ready to go for being a rookie, we need him out there at least for 50% of snaps like they've been doing with him so far. But as for all of the players, I think it's a risk to do that. I think Buffalo is a very good team, so even if you were to play short-handed, I still think that the result wouldn't kill the season or hurt the season in a tremendous way with 2 home games ahead of you against AFC teams and a division rival. So to me, I think it's a risk to play any of the players who haven't had enough practice because of the closure of the building. They have to have enough players to play the game, but that's why there's an expanded practice squad this season up to 16. That's why they had that. So use as many practice squad guys as you need to. Let some of these guys who haven't had a ramp up in the sense of having practice time get healthy. And this is a Tuesday game. We're going to have to play again this upcoming week in a short turnaround again. Just let some of these guys sit. Let them get back into a practice routine, be in the building for next week. I think that's the safest route, but I realize that's not the most popular opinion amongst the Titans fan base. They're basically saying, "Oh, you're willing to take the L," and I mean, yeah, this is about the long-term health of the season. I think the Titans can be a long-term competitive team again, and I think you got to kind of put the horse ahead of the cart. Don't flip it around this time, and don't try to rush these guys out here too quick just to have them in the game.
Now, do the Titans have any, COVID-19 aside, do they have any injuries? I saw obviously AJ Brown's coming off of his injury, hasn't played in a while. Do they have any other injuries that are affecting the team? Was it Lawan that came up on the questionable side? Someone came up questionable like at the end of the week on Friday or Saturday or something. Is he supposed to play? And is there anyone else not COVID related that we wouldn't expect to see in this game tomorrow?
Well, Taylor actually hurt what appeared to be his neck, shoulder area. They're listing it as a shoulder injury, which you know how the NFL injury report is. They give you a body part, but you don't really know what's going on. Just the way he reacted, it looked like, it could have been maybe a slight dislocation. So we haven't gotten any information on it, but shoulder neck area. He didn't play in a lot of the game against the Vikings. But with the skip of the Steelers game and it turning into a bye week, he's been listed as limited throughout the week, questionable to play in the game. We will see kind of what the results are going forward with Taylor, but he is on the fence. As for A.J. Brown, he was a full participant in the Titans practice on Saturday that they kind of had. I did air quotes for that,
Sure.
Obviously. He's limited and questionable, but that kind of segues me back into what I was saying. Why play these guys? They're both questionable for the game. Adoree Jackson, who could have come off the IR after the first 3 games, isn't going to come off the IR for this game, so he's not going to play. Everyone else on the injury report was a full participant and is mostly good to go, so I wouldn't worry about them missing. But really, it's A.J. Brown, Taylor Lewan. Are those players going to play for the Titans? Ultimately, I think it's pretty risky to put them out there without that being in the facility leading up to the game, but I think that both of them will actually play in the game. I mean, the Titans really need A.J. Brown, and we'll talk, more about that going forward. They really need A.J. Brown, and with some talented edge rushers for the Bills, I think they really need that left tackle spot shirt up with Taylor Lewan too, but I would rather, have A.J. in the game over Taylor if we had to rest one just because of the need on the outside for the Titans. But those are the non-COVID impacted players for the most part. It's pretty solid for the
Is
Titans.
Isaiah Wilson a guy that took off the COVID list just finally? Would he step in, or would, obviously coming off of the COVID list in similar fashion, would you trust taking him in, or would you go with a different tackle? Is there a different tackle that would play in that spot? I know Ty Sambarillo is playing there. Had 68 snaps there from what it looks like this season. It looks like I've seen some film on him. He's a pretty decent pass blocker. Is he a guy that you'd expect to play there, or would you actually roll a dice with Isaiah Wilson because of his potential talent level?
Well, I guess it's a Freudian slip there. There's a reason I didn't mention Isaiah Wilson. He struggled in the modified training camp.
Gotcha.
Had a DUI actually while he was on the COVID list, and he's not going to go to his court date until after the season. It was moved from this month to February, so his punishment from the NFL likely won't come until afterwards. And I have high hopes for the rookie, but he's really struggled early on. Reports about maturity issues, weight issues, conditioning. Now he was always going to be a project pick late in the first round. It was kind of a value pick, somebody who has upside, a young guy. But I didn't mention him probably on purpose, subconsciously, because he's not going to be a factor in the game, although he was taken off the COVID list. Ty Sambrailo would be the replacement. Most of those snaps did come from when he replaced Taylor Lewan against the Minnesota Vikings. The Titans' pass blocking in general has been pretty good throughout the season. I mean, it's only 3 games, of course, but it's been pretty solid so far. And Ty Sambrailo, like you said, it is a pretty good pass blocker. I wouldn't say good. That's actually not fair. He's average to slightly below
replacement,
average.
though. Like,
yes,
spot star.
Yeah, exactly. So I wouldn't be. They're going to give him help with the chipping tight end, send the running back to his side, do all the things schematically, roll Tannehill to the right side, which matches his throwing arm anyway. They're going to do all the things schematically to help him out. So I'm not too worried about it. But, yeah, Isaiah Wilson, unfortunately, as a first-round rookie, you would hope to – I make this argument. You want to capitalize on a rookie contract, not just in the value, but also the contract. You're wasting a year of that cheap labor at a high level talent. That's a big value in draft picks too that people sometimes forget about first rounders. They always talk about the mid round deals. So Isaiah Wilson has been a slight disappointment. Still has high hopes. He's only 20, 21 years old, a really young guy, but I wouldn't expect him to be a factor in this game. I would expect Ty Sambrailo to be the guy if Lewan can't go.
And so it's obvious we're not really going to see like your normal everyday Tennessee Titans this weekend or this weekend. Jeez, it's a Monday. Sounds like a Monday.
I don't blame you for the slip up. I mean, this is strange. It's all strange.
Yeah, we're obviously not going to see what the full Tennessee Titans team. And so Bills fans might not be able to make a full decision about what this team looks like. Are they competitive in the AFC South? Are they like the clear front runner, which a lot of people would say they are? But there is that point of view going around right now that they haven't beaten anyone good, so how can you say they're good? And I don't fall into that. I don't believe that. It'd be really hypocritical because last year that's what people were saying about the Bills. And my mantra was that you can't beat anyone who isn't on your schedule. But when you look at the margins of victory against the Broncos, Jaguars, Vikings, it's only 6 points. So I do get the argument. Where do you see this team? Obviously they probably are the front runner in the AFC South, but beyond that, like how do you see them shaping up against the rest of the AFC going forward when everyone's healthy?
Well, I think that last part that you just said there, the last caveat, is the most important. That's what I was going to talk about. It all comes down to health. I think this season, more than any season, is going to be a war of attrition. Not only because of COVID and that impact, but like I said, the injuries seem to be an uptick. Don't have the data on that. Just a feeling, from watching it. Something that's been a talking point around the league is the injury. So I think the team that can get the healthiest and get right at the right time in the season, late, and stay healthy throughout the playoffs will probably have the best chance to win. That could give us some incredible results and some unexpected things happening, which will be exciting. But that's far ahead of now. But I think the Titans have the talent on both sides of the ball that if they're one of the teams that is healthiest at the end of the year, then they could pull off a strange Super Bowl victory in a weird year, because of the circumstances. It could be a factor. One of the reasons is, they do have a Jadeveon Clowney that can make an impact.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Simmons on the defensive line, Harold Landry. So 3 impact players there. Rashawn Evans and Jayon Brown have proved to be a pretty solid duo in the middle, while not top tier in the league. They're a solid duo. You can win a Super Bowl with inside linebackers playing roles that they play. In the secondary, Adoree Jackson has the speed to match up with anybody.
He's good.
That's key. You got to blitz and play man defense if you want to win a Super Bowl in this league right now because of the passing attacks.
Yeah.
Pat Mahomes basically is what it comes down to in the AFC. So that's how you're going to have to stop him. Adoree, and then Kevin Byard's an all-pro safety. When he's right, him and Kenny Vaccaro at safety, it's a pretty solid duo there too. So, and then you look at the offense. We saw what the offense can do, and I do think that it's obviously repeatable because a lot of it is scheme driven. The wide zone run, the boot action, play act or passing game. I think all of that's very repeatable. The talent on offense is there. Think about getting Taylor Lewan healthy, keeping Derrick Henry healthy, having A.J. Brown finally be healthy. He played against Denver, but he wasn't anywhere close to 100%. And I think if they look back, they wouldn't have played him in that game. Mm-hmm. So I think that if you look at the talent the Titans have, solid on the offensive line, solid weapons, good scheme. On defense, they do have talented players at all three levels. The scheme is a little lacking on defense, in my opinion. They try to do a little too much sometimes for their personnel, but I think you combine all the talent at all three levels on defense with the scheme and the solid weapons on offense, and this team could go far. But again, it's going to be a war of attrition. So whichever team can stay healthy and get right close to the playoffs, I think if the Titans can be that, then yeah, there's no reason that they can't make another deep run.
Yeah, I mean they're right there. I mean in their division, and to me, like obviously Houston right now.
Yeah.
You know, Bills went down there and lost and up 19 points last year in the playoffs, and so it's not any harm for us to see them struggle here out of the
Phillip
gate.
Rivers. Phillip Rivers is turning back into
Phillip Rivers
from last year.
Yeah,
Everyone wanted to talk about how great he was going to be, and you stick him right in this scheme, and he's so perfect. And well, maybe he doesn't got it anymore. I don't know.
he looked terrible.
I can't stand
Doesn't
the
look good.
Colts. Yeah,
And it's the freaking Browns. He looked terrible.
I mean, not the perfect secondary in Cleveland. They're a good team, but not a great secondary.
He can't move. Anyways, like I think I was the only one in our preview show to actually pick the Titans preseason to win their division.
Yeah, you definitely were. I was not very. I love AJ Brown, but like I was.
I just like the defense they put together there, and just think that unit alone
talent.
Is very much like a Bills team, like a last year Bills team specifically, that can just win a game because they have such solid talent on their defensive side of the ball. So that's kind of why I thought that, and I just didn't see it out of Houston talent level, and I just didn't see it out of Indy. I know their defense is randomly good, but I don't like that offense very much at all. Like I just don't think it's very good. So I think Tennessee does have a leg up. And I mean, you're right. Like back to the point of it's a war of attrition. I mean, the Bills are coming in with a slew of questionable players. With Brian Winters, or starting guard, Tre'Davious White, they're all pro corner. Andre Roberts, their kick returner, Cody Ford, their starting guard.
Matt Milano
out.
Yep, same time you said that.
To be on Jonnu Smith. Zach Moss, our rookie running back, who's looked good, is questionable. And John Brown, obviously, our one of our top weapons, is questionable. The Bills will play a lot of those guys. However, they are very conservative. The Bills are conservative. They have a very strong strength and conditioning team. Last year, they were very healthy. They will err on the side of caution, like you mentioned, especially this week. They have been practicing. They still will err on the side of caution. So you might not see some of those players and kind of combat like what the Titans might do and not play some of those names. I don't expect some of those Bills players to play, and I think Tre'Davious White is more questionable with COVID concerns.
I was going to ask about that. All these little rumors. Like I'm not on the ground there. I don't cover the team. I don't feel comfortable like saying it is one way or another. But there are some rumors that he just is worried about COVID because of his background with it, which is understandable.
Mm-hmm.
But I was going to ask about that anyway. So the people want to know.
He almost didn't play this season, which, there's another internal argument. Was that because he wanted to be one of the highest paid corners in the league, or because he, actually was concerned getting him paid, kept him opted in pretty quickly as one of the top paid corners in the league right now. And he's played, he plays really good football. He's really underrated corner, one of the best in the league. But he did have those COVID concerns and this random back injury that we have injury guys on our show all the time and didn't see it. So we don't know quite what that's about. So we'll see if that's just that it's a sore and he just plays no issue, or it's COVID. There's no in between. Like he actually did hurt his back and it's a 1 week injury. That's not realistic. It's
like
either
Alvin Kamara in the preseason. He had the back injury and then he got the contract and
so
now he's good to go.
We'll see tomorrow if it is just a sore back and he's good to go, or if it's actually, we're going to say back, but we made a deal with him that if we sit him out this week, he'll be ready to go for the Chiefs week, which is obviously coming up here on Monday night, changed from Thursday Night Football, which would have been a great Thursday Night Football game for the slate. The NFL putting it on Monday now, right before the normal Monday night game. So that's what's going to happen there. So a lot of Bills fans are upset about that. I mean, they're upset that we are going to get a prime time potential AFC battle for really jockeying for really strong positioning here.
Now it's 4:30 on Monday.
Yeah, now you got a primetime game at 5 p.m. Eastern, and you have people in Central at 4 Pacific at 2 p.m. So they're a little bit upset about this. So I think that they do err on the side of caution, knowing that Mahomes has an extra 2 days to watch film. The Bills have to play. I wouldn't be shocked to see some of those names not go. It kind of counteract what's going on in Tennessee too. So I think it's going to kind of they're going to feeling to see who Tennessee's going to play, and they're going to say, well, if they're not going to play, Fulton stays on the list. If some of the other names might be a week they don't play John Brown. I don't know. I can't really tell you. They really love their rookie Gabe Davis, a name to watch tomorrow. They love him. He starts occasionally. They have 4 really good receivers here in Buffalo. So if they have to sit out John Brown, they will quite frankly not care.
Ain't no problem. Ain't no problem.
Huh?
Ain't no problem.
Yeah, it's not a problem for them. They will err on the side of caution. So it's going to be interesting to see who actually plays in this game and if the NFL gets what they actually wanted in this matchup. So it's going to be an interesting battle. So watch out for those inactive lists across the board for both squads in this game. Things could happen that we don't even know about. Can the Titans, did they use their call-ups, Did they use their 2 practice squad call-ups, or did they not report that, or do they not use those?
Well, the roster, I would imagine they are most certainly going to use them, but the roster is such in flux right now because of who's coming off the COVID list, who's not coming off the COVID list. Like they had a practice today. They haven't even announced the injury report yet for it. I mean, unless it's happened within the last hour, that we've been prepping them, been on. So, at this time, I know that they're going to use those. They really have no choice with the way that the roster is set right now. But they haven't made their official roster moves for the game yet. I think those are coming a little bit later on.
Yeah, that sounds good. The Bills are actually pretty. One thing they do is they will announce them the day before usually. So they did make a move today, putting Delshon Phillips, a special teams linebacker, on injured reserve and calling up the always on the roster Deion Lacey to play special teams tomorrow. So generally the Bills are pretty straightforward with it. They don't expect to play Brown. So that's why I'm saying, guys like Brown and a lot of their offensive linemen might play. They'll tell us if they're not. The day before, everyone's like, "Oh man, they already ruled out X, Y, and Z. They're questionable." So we'll pay attention to that. But
I wouldn't say the Titans are that way. I would say they are the other way with injury information. They wait to the last minute. They try to tell you as little as
not
possible.
as much here.
Yeah. It's just a difference in the teams and the way that they run, probably.
Yeah, the Bills won't say anything up until Saturday,
no.
and then they'll be like, "Ow, ow, ow, ow," and we're like, "What?" But they will tell us and give us 24 hours notice. So at this time, I'm pretty comfortable by 4 p.m. I would have known that. I don't expect Trey to play, but we'll see if the national media guys jump on that and have something to say tonight, as they sometimes get those feeds to them. But let's talk about the matchup a little bit now. We talked about the COVID, the injuries, the who might not play. Let's talk about the Titans on offense. Now, there's a lot of running joke in Buffalo because of Ryan Tannehill. He's 4-7 against the Bills. He's never been great against the Bills for the Dolphins, and a lot of people think he was paid too much. He did have a great year for the Titans last year. No, I don't think I would even discount that.
No, not
How
at
do
all.
you feel about Ryan Tannehill? Just knowing the contract he got, are you cool with that? Would you have rather had a first-round rookie in this draft coming up? Or last draft even, I guess. Kind of where's your opinion on that? And you see him as the face of the Titans franchise for 4 seasons.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
So I guess I'll break it down all the way this way. A quarterback in the draft this year that just happened, no, that wouldn't have been the move. The contract, I wish it would have been 2 years guaranteed for $62 million rather than 3 years guaranteed for $90 million. But it is what it, that's the price of doing business. I get it. So Tannehill's going to be on the Titans for 3 years. That's pretty much where it is right now. And as long as we continue to run the offensive scheme that we run right now, then yes, I am absolutely comfortable with it. Now, do you draft a rookie? Let's say something happens and the Titans end up going 7-9 or 6-10, and you can get a Trey Lance or for some reason Justin Fields, because of the lack of time that he plays in college, drops to 8 or something like that, and the Titans are sitting at 15 to 18, and they want to use a couple picks and move up and get a Fields or a Trey Lance. I think that is the move for the Titans, whether it be this year or this upcoming year or the year after. That's absolutely what they have to do. Ryan Tannehill still is in his early 30s, but I don't think he's Breeze or Rodgers or Brady. He doesn't have enough talent alone to be one of these guys that plays until they're almost 40. So I think you got to start looking at a replacement after this contract with Ryan Tannehill. And in the NFL, if you don't start early, you're already too late. So I think that they do need to look for a quarterback soon.
Sure.
But that is not me saying that Ryan Tannehill can't get the job done. That's just smart planning for a roster.
Mhm.
And I think it would be the perfect move for the Titans actually to mortgage a little bit of the future this draft and get one of those guys that's going to be in the first round, maybe a couple picks ahead
The
of them.
Packers did it.
Yeah, and I think Fields or Trey Lance is a better prospect than
Sure.
Jordan Love. So I think it would be definitely worth it if the Titans didn't have a successful year as
Sure.
I'm thinking
Mhm.
they could or they had, which is a possible outcome. Anything's possible. So I think it would be a great idea for the Titans to maybe pull a Chiefs or pull a Texans and
Mhm.
move up in the draft and get one of those guys to sit behind Tannehill for a year at minimum, 2 years at max.
Yeah.
And
Nope.
that's the move for me, but not because Tannehill's not good. It's just because he's not an elite talent. He's good in the Titans scheme, and scheme
Yeah.
is going to change over time.
Yeah.
So you have to look for a guy who transcends scheme eventually. But Tannehill can get it done in the Titans scheme for the time being with this window of weapons.
Yeah,
There's
and
no
the
better game than this week for him to show to Bills fans that, like, I'm a better player than I was in Miami.
Hmm.
You know, off of short weeks and know half my team and this and that, to be like, you know what, I'm at home. I have that going for me. You know, I have nothing to lose really. You know, be no better week. You know, maybe some Bills defenders aren't playing like Matt Milano. Well, Matt Milano isn't playing, but maybe Tre'Davious
Mhm.
White isn't, and a good week for them to take advantage of that. So we'll see if it's really. I think Ryan Tannehill gets paid house money. I mean, quite frankly, if he loses, it is what it is. He can say COVID, team wasn't ready. We're going to get better long term, like you mentioned, some of the things you said. But if he wins, he can say, you know, look what I was able to do in such, you know, in these conditions. So I think it's everything's on the table for him, and I think he's got a chance to show that, like, I'll show you what I can be and show you what I can do after that contract. I think this is his, I don't want to call it his first real test post his contract, but it kind of is, with all these things going for him. And
Tyler, I think your microphone's not working right now.
there we
go?
go.
Yep, we got you. We got you back.
I think it's like a basketball player when you get down 20 or maybe you got 2 star players and
Sure.
one of them's out for the night and you're like, you know what? I'm just going to put up shots. And sometimes
Exactly.
they get into a rhythm, bring the team back and win. I think Tannehill like, let's say A.J. Brown doesn't play. They're going to be without Corey Davis, without Adam Humphries, without A.J. Brown. I mean, they're going to have their number 4 wide receiver, the 5th most talented wide receiver on the team, in my opinion, Khalif Raymond,
Mhm.
would be their number 1 receiver. So, I mean, yeah, Tannehill could just say, you know what, screw it, I'm going to throw it down the field to these speed threats that we have, these little guys outside. And,
Yeah, try to get a penalty,
just
maybe. You know,
toss it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or they could just run the ball every single play the entire game. I mean, I can't run that out or rule that out either. So.
Yeah, so keep it on the offense for them. You know, tell me, you know, what they do well, you know, where they struggle. You know, the offensive line looks, you know, okay. Like, I don't think I have any personal issues with the offensive line. I wouldn't say it's weak. I wouldn't say attack that offensive line. It's so poor, like I have in the past with other teams. Is there, obviously, without Corey Davis and Adam Humphries hurts. So that's once again would mitigate the loss of Trey White if they do decide to rest him.
Right.
You know, then you're talking Josh Norman. So what, you know, the Bills are actually out, technically would be out their first and second corners. Levi Wallace is a guy they really like, who's not playing.
But he's a
Never
good
my
player.
personal favorite. Yeah. He's
Mhm.
never been my personal favorite, but he at times is a really good corner. PFF likes him. I don't always love his break. I think he gives way too much cushion. Guys like big, lanky receivers, even like a Corey Davis, would take advantage of him, in my opinion. He's always abused by like the Preston Williamses of the world. But then does play good against speed guys. Doesn't make any sense personally.
Matchups.
Yeah,
Sometimes
yeah.
it's like that. I would say the Titans cornerbacks are like that too.
Yeah. So really, really goofy. But he's out anyways. Trey White might be out. So you're talking Josh Norman, Taron Johnson, a guy they like in the slot a lot. So shouldn't be any loss in the slot. And then, you know, Josh Norman played an awesome football game last week. No one expected it. Basically punched the ball out of Waller's arms in a huge play last week and covered pretty well. So as cornerback 2, they're okay with their 2 and 3. But, you know, really, they don't have a corner 1 if Trey doesn't play. You might be looking at an undrafted free agent out of Buffalo, University of Buffalo, and Cam Lewis, the guy they really love out of their practice squad. That might actually be in the out boundary situation. So tell me about the Titans offense. I mean, obviously it's going to be tough without Davis, without Humphreys, to really talk too much about it. And then without Milano, you guys have a plus matchup with Jonnu Smith. They got Milano back against Higbee. Higbee did nothing. They got, they lose Milano, and then Mike Gesicki goes off. So I would imagine it's a plus matchup, but I'd imagine the Bills are going to play that counter chess piece. Like, we're going to put Jordan Poyer. We're going to do anything we can to help out Terrell Dodson with Poyer. So especially if they're missing some of those other weapons. So kind of tell me about the offense, the offensive line. Talk to me about what the Titans do well. Obviously, we all know about Derrick Henry. But tell me about, when they're ticking, what's going on, when they're not ticking, when they're struggling, what's happening.
Well, all things, I guess, do ultimately depend on who gets to play, who starts, because A.J. Brown changes the dynamic completely for the Titans.
Yeah.
He's their most talented player on offense in terms of skill. I mean, honestly, I think he's the most talented player on the offense. I'll just stop there. I know that people are going to shout about Derrick Henry, and I get that. But I think A.J. Brown ultimately has the most talent overall on the offense to make a huge difference. And we see that with the explosive plays he makes. So if the Bills are missing White and then A.J. plays, well, now the Bills have a problem on their hands. But if A.J. doesn't play and then Trey doesn't play, then things kind of cancel out, because you're talking about undrafted free agents. Well, the Titans would have one starting at wide receiver then in Nick Westbrook. So, you have to consider that. Khalif Raymond, as I mentioned earlier, he's basically just a double move, vertical deep threat guy and a kick returner. He doesn't really have like a regular route tree to be able to run outs and run slants and go over the middle on crossers like Corey Davis does on these play action bootlegs. He's just not that guy. He would
kill the Bills, by the way. He would kill the Bills, Corey Davis, if he played.
Yes,
he would be a plus matchup. He'd be a plus matchup.
His physicality would really help over the middle. He's been great this year, best start to his career. It's really unfortunate that he was one of the guys in. It's unfortunate they're all impacted, but just for Corey in a contract year who hasn't got off to the start he wanted in his career, it was just a really good start to the season. So that was unfortunate. Yeah. But, so if A.J. Brown doesn't play, the Titans wide receiver situation is just as dire, if not more, than what the Bills may be facing. So that'll kind of cancel out. Where the matchup is going to be won on offense, as you mentioned, is the tight ends going up against the linebackers and the safeties of the Bills. Obviously, the Bills have really talented safeties. Missing Milano obviously hurts the linebackers in pass coverage. You guys know more about the team than I do, but that kind of my read so far from watching them play. And Jonnu Smith is a really talented tight end. Now, I'm not going to put him in the category of the Kittles, Andrews, and Waller. Obviously, Zach Ertz isn't playing his best, but we've seen him play like that before. Travis Kelce, of course. Jonnu Smith is not quite there, I would say, but he can be like the top tight end of the next tier, in my opinion, with the way the Titans scheme him open over the middle with play action, sucking those linebackers in, threatening the safeties vertically so that they can't come down too hard. I think that's a great way to use Jonnu's skill set after the catch with the scheme. As I've talked about, the Titans scheme is just really perfectly tailored to the talents of their players. So that's really where that matchup is going to be won. Can the Bills find a way, whether that's bringing down Poyer, bringing down a safety, to take a linebacker's responsibility on those plays, playing a lot of cover one robber with the safety being the robber, or playing cover three with the safety coming down in the box to kind of take that linebacker position and pass coverage. I think those are ways to kind of counter what the Titans are going to try to do to get Jonnu open, because if A.J. Brown doesn't play, then Jonnu Smith is the Titans' only viable threat in the passing game. Everyone else serves a good role, like an Anthony Ferkser, who's a pass-catching tight end. And then the wide receivers I mentioned, they serve a role, but they're not going to be able to fill the roles that they're going to need to fill for the Titans' offense to be what it typically is. So that's really where they sit right now. If A.J. Brown doesn't play, then Jonnu Smith is going to get all of the Bills' attention, rightfully so, and that could spell trouble for the Titans' offense at that point in time.
An underrated loss is Michael Pruitt, right? I mean, he's a really good run blocker. I mean, I know PFF likes him. I've liked his play, in his limited snaps. I think he has 77, still fair for a second tight end. Is he a guy you're going to miss, or is he a guy overrated in the run game? Is it not no harm, no foul there? Or is he a guy that is an underrated loss?
Well, you definitely miss a player like Michael Pruitt, but one thing about the Titans roster that they focus on is versatility. So Michael Pruitt is a good second tight end in the run game.
Yeah.
He's not really going to be an option. And I mentioned Anthony Firkser earlier, and he's more of the second tight end for pass catching situations. Pruitt is the second tight end for running situations, but also before the Titans signed fullback Kari Blossomgame in the middle of the 2019 season from the Minnesota Vikings, they were using Pruitt as a fullback, which they still do at certain times when they want to get certain looks, change formation, because he does have that tight end skill set. That's his primary position. So you can have him in the backfield at fullback, motion him out, motion him to the line of scrimmage. That sort of versatility in the scheme and the formations is really what you lose with someone like Pruitt. But also because of the versatility of the Titans roster, they have players who can fill that role to where I'm not particularly worried about losing Pruitt at this time. Firkser can play that secondary tight end. Not too worried about that. If Lawan plays, then you can use Ty Sambrila, who's an athletic tackle, as that second tight end in running situations if necessary. And they do have Kari Blossomgame, who's their typical fullback, their starting fullback. So he can handle all those fullback duties for every snap that maybe you'd move Pruitt in for, motion him out into a flank tight end position, a wing tight end position, something like that. So I think the versatility on the roster covers up for a guy like Pruitt. I don't think that his loss, while always having some sort of impact, I don't think it'll be something that tilts the game in one way or the other.
Yeah, and with your receiver room like so decimated at this point, it may come down to like, how Arthur Smith, your OC, is might be just a coaching battle between him and our defensive coordinator Leslie Frazier. And I thought I saw something earlier today that the Titans may be without some coaches tomorrow. I don't know if you know anything about that. Is there what people on the sidelines, are they in danger of losing for tomorrow's game?
Well, I think that Arthur Smith is one of the better offensive coordinators in the game. So that's one thing that I'm not worried about.
Yeah, he's underrated.
Yeah, he is underrated, and maybe not for much longer because you hear some whispers about a head coaching position. I think he's 1 year away from that. But if the Titans make another run like they did in 2019, well, then who am I to say that he doesn't deserve it? He's the guy. He's been on 5 different coaching staffs and been kept by everyone after they've gone through Nashville. I think that's a testament to the guy and his coaching ability, that every new coach is like, you know what? I'm going to keep this guy, though. He can stay. I think that really says something about his personality, and he really understands his talent, which is something I mentioned earlier. So that's not where I'm worried, especially with how banged up the Bills are on defense. I think the Titans can keep afloat possibly there. It's on the other side of the ball. So one of the people affected by COVID-19 was Titans outside linebacker coach Shane Bowen. He was one of the first 2 cases, the first on the staff, and he is the defensive play caller at this time for the Titans, or has been.
Wow.
No DC, right? You don't have a DC, do you?
No, there's no DC. He is the outside linebacker coach, but he is the defensive play caller. That's the best way to explain that. So is that some sort of Mike Vrabel power trip? Is that what is that? I don't really know. That was a big point of consternation in the offseason for the fan base and the local media that asked him nonstop over and over. So they're losing their defensive play caller, and not that I think Shane Bowen is some whiz at defensive play calling. I actually think that he hasn't been great so far this season, but he's learned on the job. And I learned from Arthur Smith last year not to criticize too early when the personnel isn't holding up their end of the bargain either. So Shane Bowen missing hurts, but not in the reason you would think, oh, the guy who calls defensive plays is gone. I think Mike Vrabel was always in his ear about what to be calling, so I am not overly concerned about the defensive play calls, but it stretches Mike Vrabel thinner. Is he going to make a mistake in a game situation, go for a 4th down, don't go for a 4th down, time and score, call a timeout here, don't call a timeout, throw a challenge? All of those little things that he would be more focused on when he's not worried about calling defensive plays, he's going to lose by having to call defensive plays too and stretch himself even thinner. So from that perspective, I think that could allow Buffalo Bills head coach Sean McDermott to be a little more locked in on all of the game theory type things that are going on. And maybe Mike Vrabel makes a little bit of a mistake along the way because he's stretched too thin. Also, you just don't have your outside linebacker coach. And there's been a lot of people affected on the personnel side from COVID-19 for the Titans. We don't know who those people are. They only report the players because they have to. we know about Shane Bowen because he was like the smoking gun that kind of started all of this from a national perspective. It was actually defensive back Greg Maben on September the 24th that kicked everything off, really, if we're honest. But Shane Bowen missing the game against the Vikings and popping up as a COVID problem. I don't mean him. I just mean a COVID problem for the team and everything. That was kind of like I said, the smoking gun. So without having him just as a coach to coach the players, and because he's a good coach at his position as a position coach, that obviously is going to hurt. The Titans really rely on their edge rushers and Harold Landry, Jadeveon Clowney, Vic Beasley, Kamale Correa. So you're missing a coach. It's always going to hurt. How many of the defensive coaches are missing for the Titans because of who they were around and the tracing, along with Mike Vrabel being stretched too thin. So I'm not too worried about Arthur Smith on offense, but all of those other concerns could lead to the Bills winning from a coaching perspective.
Now, we've talked about that's the offensive defensive side of the ball a lot for the Titans. We haven't really touched on, like, to me, maybe the more intriguing sides, the Bills offense. And this is crazy for Bills fans. They're potentially an offensive team now. The Bills offense versus Titans defense, which potentially is missing, to me, one of their best players in Jeffrey Simmons. What's that?
The best player.
Okay. I thought you were on that train. I wasn't sure if you were or not.
On the team. That's how I feel. The best player on the team.
I think he's really good. Okay, so he's kind of like, to me, like Trey White was before he was Trey White. It was like, who the hell is Trey White?
Right.
And that's kind of, to me, what Jeffrey Simmons is. That kind of game-changing guy. He's super. I mean, we have interior line injuries. Mitch Morris is good, but our guard play has been injured and switching around a little bit. Would have been a major issue. Tackle play's been strong in Buffalo. Two really good tackles in Deion Dawkins and Darrell Williams. The guy bounced back. Really playing great at the right tackle spot. But their interior struggled, and especially to run the ball. Devin Singletary's making his own room. So they pass blocked well, though, I should say. When it comes to missing him, like, so talk to me about, and I think we all know about the pass rushers. I think that's pretty clear when you play Tennessee, especially now what you're looking at. Talk to me about the front three, and then, you know, the back seven, or I guess in this case the back four. You know, how's Malcolm Butler, you know, guy coming back, Jonathan Joseph, guys that have, you know, long in the tooth, kind of like your Josh Norman-ish guys. You know, how are they? Are there guys that you like? And then if Fulton doesn't play, you're looking at a Chris Jackson, a 7th round rookie. So are these, I mean, in a very vaunted Bills pass attack now? So I guess, will the Bills now come out and run the ball with that potentially you missing your best player? So how do you see this matchup on the defensive side of the ball? And, you know, obviously pass rushers aside, because I think those are the most known entities.
Well, it is October after all, and my assessment of this matchup is spooky. The Titans, Bills fans, if you're listening, this is going to be like Buffalo Bills ASMR. Like, sit back, relax, enjoy. This should really help with anxiety or anything else. So the Titans are already the 4th worst team in the NFL in terms of giving up rushing yards. They're giving up about 160 a game. And their 2 starting interior linemen that matter are Daquan Jones, who just came off the COVID list on Sunday. Will he play? Will they feel comfortable playing him? Remains to be seen. And then Jeffrey Simmons, who has, in my opinion, been the best player on the team this year. He's a force. Last game that the Titans actually played, 65 offensive plays for the Minnesota Vikings. I charted Jeffrey Simmons disrupted 15. He's an animal. Watching his tape is fun. And there's a reason that the Titans were so excited to get him at pick 19 in 2019 after an ACL tear, and then surfaced video of him, you know, getting in a fight with a woman. It was pretty vicious, no lie, but he was 17 and, you know, says he's a changed person, and they gave him a shot, and he's been a solid member of the community so far. But either way, Jeffrey Simmons and Daquan Jones are pretty stout up front, in my opinion. They have been. And the Titans are still giving up the 4th most rushing yards per game in the league. So you take those guys out, and you bring in 5th round rookie Larrell Murchison, who I have some hopes for. He's not ready to be a starting defensive lineman in the NFL, and that's why you get picked in the 5th round. And then undrafted free agent from 2019 out of Chattanooga, Isaiah Mack. Well, for my analytics folks out there, both of those players have under a 35 per Pro Football Focus in grade in run defense. And the tape matches up to that. They're getting blown off the ball. Murchison spent more time 10 yards away from the ball than he spent close to it in recent matchups against what I would not call a solid interior offensive line for the Minnesota Vikings. So if you're the Buffalo Bills, you come out, you run the ball. Zach Moss, it appears like he's going to play.
Yeah.
You get Zach Moss back, you run the ball down the Titans' throat. They can't stop it when they're healthy. They definitely can't stop it when they're not. So that's what I'm worried about up front. Clowney's fine. He's a boomer bust guy. He shoots gaps, freelances. A lot of times he makes the right play. He makes some big plays that we need him to make. So he's been good, but sometimes he misses and breaks contain and gives up plays. But I'm not worried about Clowney or Landry on the other side. He's been a stud too. He's been better than Clowney, in my opinion. Harold Landry's been great. On the back end, I think the Titans have the two slowest starting corners in the NFL as a tandem, and Jonathan Joseph on the outside, the ageless one, and Malcolm Butler on the other side. If Christian Fulton doesn't play on the interior in the slot, then yeah, they'll have Chris Jackson. And Chris Jackson actually played more than Christian Fulton in the first game, and he was one of the worst cornerbacks in the NFL, period. His coverage grade was in the 20s, I believe, against the Broncos. Just really bad from a coverage standpoint. He's got hopes as a special teamer and maybe can grow into a corner, but he's certainly not ready for that task right now. So if Fulton doesn't play and the Titans trot out there the two slowest starting cornerbacks in the NFL and Malcolm Butler and Jonathan Joseph, and then have Chris Jackson on the slot on the interior, it doesn't matter how great their safety tandem is of Kevin Byard and Kenny Vaccaro, because those corners just don't stand a chance, and you have to play zone, and then you're too predictable. And along with the concerns in the run game, I just think it's going to be tough sledding for a Titans defense. And if the Titans want to win this game, and like they have all season, they're going to have to find a way to just get the ball down the field and outscore the other team. So the Bills, from an offensive standpoint, I think it's kind of just pick your poison. Do whatever you like. You're going to find a way to have success against this Titans defense in its current state.
Yeah, and the Bills have been very successful on offense.
They've been
obviously.
great. They've been great. Yeah, if Josh Allen plays anything like he has been, the Titans really don't stand a chance. I think both teams close to 100%. This would be an incredible game to watch. But with where it is right now, I just don't know how the Titans defense can hold up.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the Rams have allowed 5 passing touchdowns, 4 by Josh Allen. And
he's good.
So he'll make it happen offense. How about the running quarterback? Something the Bills can use at any point. One of the better running quarterbacks in the league. Incredible in the red zone. He doesn't turn the ball over there. So that's really where you see Josh Allen's legs. This, especially now that he's new Josh Allen. You'll see his legs specifically inside the 20 with power, quarterback power runs. You'll see options. You'll see zone reads. You'll see literally, anything known to man with Brian Dable will call out of anything, especially as you start to get inside the 20, the 15, the 10. So quarterback runs is going to be a big part of this game for sure, especially if they're in zone. They don't have a spy on him. It's going to be incredible for Josh Allen. So we'll see what Brian Dable pulls out. But yeah, they've been throwing the ball at will. He should be the second leading passer in the league after this week, and that's not saying he's going to go throw 500 yards in the Titans. That's just saying he needs to throw 150 to stay in that second spot. And now with Dak being number 1 and hurt, Josh Allen's got a case to try to run for that number 1 overall passing yards quarterback, and he's got it in his sight. So with the plus matchup on the run side, it's going to be interesting to see if the Bills will say, you know what, we're going to take that. Or if they're going to say, you know what, we've been so dominant throwing the ball, I don't care who the Titans, what's going on their run D. We're going to try these slow corners out. And you'll see he loves throwing the ball to Stephon Diggs. People were like, oh, he's not going to get the ball. The Bills traded a first-round pick for him. He's not going to get the ball. He's not going to get the ball. He's not going to get the ball. That's all Josh Allen looked for.
He seems to be getting the ball.
Yeah, he seems to be number 1 in receiving in the league.
It's funny. They gave up the assets and planned to use him. I don't know who would have done that.
Wild. Well, they don't know how to do that in Houston, so
that's
true.
Yeah. No,
that's
just
true,
they just don't know what to do with assets. They're like, oh, we have a good player. I don't know what that's like.
Houston, right? So let's talk about it. Let's end the call by you saying, where do you see? You're not healthy today. We know that. Where do you see the Titans ending up? And then I know Jake has a question he likes to ask everybody that he has on the show from Crossover Editions.
Every single time.
What do you think of Josh Allen? Because you have people, more specifically a couple of weeks ago, who would say he's 25th best quarterback in the league. And then you'd have people say he's number one.
And had Russell Wilson lost last night, you might make the argument he's number one in the MVP race right now. So
where do you stand? I mean, you can use just this year. You can use his development in general. You can use, whatever stat you want. 19-9 as a starting quarterback. I mean, so where do you take Josh Allen? What's your opinion? Bills fans always like to know whether it's Tennessee or Houston or Seattle. What do you think of Josh Allen?
Okay. So I like this because this is like it's like a tester almost, you know what I mean? I do this with like Ryan Tannehill.
Bills fans
it is a
bring
test.
Out the receipts,
it is a test.
So.
Yeah. No, you're fine. Actually, like I said earlier, it was Buffalo Bills ASMR. I'm about to lock in again. Everybody relax.
Lock it in, everybody.
So, couple of quick things. One thing I do want to say is I expect the Titans to try to treat Josh Allen like Lamar Jackson. Almost,
sure.
Whether it's smart or dumb or whatever anybody wants to think, I think they're going to mush rush with like 3 people and try to sit back in zone and force him into making inaccurate throws. That's really, which will lead me there. I think he does have a tendency every now and then to throw one a little haywire. He's really limited that this season, but it can still happen from time to time. And if they can force a turnover, you're not going to stop the Bills' offense. You're not. But if you can force a couple turnovers to stop them from scoring, and get the ball back, then you might be able to score with them and maybe win the game. That's how the Titans have been doing it so far this year. So why would I expect anything different?
Sure.
So like a rush and 3, playing zone, eyes on Josh Allen, make him make throws all over the field, really dissect the defense. That's what I expect. As for how far I think the Titans can go, like I was saying earlier, if they're healthy at the end of the year, I think the Titans can make a run. I think there could be a weird Super Bowl champion this year. Could be a team that you don't expect, or a team like we saw with like the Giants when they beat the Patriots and 10 years ago. They would just get hot from the wild card position and then make a run. I think you could see something like that more likely this year than other years going forward or before. So I think there's no reason that the Titans couldn't get hot at the right time, get healthy, and make a run to a Super Bowl. But I definitely see them making the playoffs and winning the AFC South. I think it's obvious that they're the best team in the division at this time. It's early, of course. Everything we say is caveated by it's early. But as for Josh Allen, so I personally, at the time, I didn't have a platform, so you can't pull the receipts on me from anywhere or whatever. But
we'll find a way. Don't worry.
Josh Allen was my number 1 quarterback out of the class with Darnold and Baker. I thought Josh Allen was clear-cut number 1. And as a matter of fact, one of my favorite memories, my dad raised me single father, president of my Pee Wee football, head coach of every sport, my whole life, blah, close with my dad. He's the reason I love football, and now that's what my whole life is centered around. So we went to the Combine in Indianapolis when Josh Allen was there. And at the Combine, if you've never been, it's a very quiet event. It's like you're taking a test at a school. They want everybody to be very hush. You don't want to disrupt the players, don't want to disrupt any scouting, anything like that, the timing of anything. So it's very hush-hush. They want everybody to be quiet. And Josh Allen made this throw. I mean, Bills fans might remember it because they were obviously looking for quarterback at the time. But Josh Allen made this throw, and I've never seen a football go further in person in my entire life in the air. And the whole crowd, because it's so quiet, you could hear the whole crowd go and take a deep breath, like a big and everybody was like,
one of them was Brandon Bean, by the way.
That was one of them, yeah.
I bet. And from watching him, and I know everybody makes this comparison, but I really see it. I just see a Cam Newton with a better arm. That's just what I see. He has all the capabilities in the running attack to do that. He's got a better arm, in my opinion. And although, like I mentioned earlier, he can be a little inaccurate from time to time, I think you take that talent, you take the mentality, you take the upside, and I would rather rein in a horse than try to kick a pig in the butt. So
Josh Rosen. That's a good.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah, that's a good analogy, and a lot of Bills fans, have to bring the receipts out on themselves because a lot of people thought they called the wrong Josh out when they first made the pick, and they traded up.
Josh Rosen thought they called the wrong Josh out. Nope.
Brandon Bean from the start says he would have taken him first overall. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
we don't know if
We
that's
don't know.
true. If
I
you like
would've
Sam
too.
Darnold,
I
Yep.
would have too. Because the Browns were going quarterback, and I thought that the best quarterback available was Josh Allen. And like I said, to me, at the end of the day, I'll always be, maybe it's a coach's son thing. I'm always a personality driven guy, and my
Mhm.
football players that I like and don't like on the tape. And Josh Allen has the personality and the play style that I want in my quarterback. And he's maybe a little reckless at times, but like I said,
sure.
I'd rather have to pull someone back a little bit who's fiery than have to push somebody who's not. And I like Josh Allen. I'm not going to say he's top 10, top 5, top whatever. All I can say is he's an MVP candidate right now, and he was my number one quarterback in his class, and I think that's proving true in the NFL.
That's fair. And I mean, you see Josh Allen, hop someone like Anthony Barr. You see Josh Allen commit 2 personal fouls on the same drive. He got called for a face mask,
I love
which
it.
was ridiculous.
Good.
Mhm.
Any running back there can, anyone, you just don't call face mask on the offense, especially a quarterback, whatever. And then he gets horse collared out of the pocket, maybe rolled back in. It's kind of debatable. Horse collared to the ground and grabbed by his face mask, and they called him for complaining. Absolutely absurd. And he still came back and beat the Rams at 3rd and 20 the entire final drive.
Literally every
and just
3
made 'em look
plays.
silly. And they still only haven't allowed a touchdown in the air since.
It's like Shaq or LeBron. Sometimes when you're so big and you're so strong and you're so much more physically
Ridiculous.
gifted
Yeah.
than the people around you, the refs won't reward you for when you're getting physically beat up because you're so much more gifted than other people.
It's like Cam Newton. You're right.
Yeah, like Cam Newton. That's a great. Yep.
Yeah.
there it
But
is.
he and Cam complains about it all the time. But I mean, and you see Brandon being drafted Cam Newton first overall. So you also see that I do think that there's some credence in the fact that at first overall he's got some precedent that says I would have taken this guy first overall. We think he's Darnold, who's going to get traded now. Rosen, who's been traded twice.
Darnold's Tannehill
I wanna
2.0.
give Rosen a chance. I do want to say this about Rosen. Part of it, obviously, is him. If he was a stud, if he was a real bona fide stud,
he'd be
you
better.
you couldn't keep him down. You couldn't keep him down. It's just what it is. But at the same time, he's been given about as terrible of circumstances as a first round pick can have. So although I'm not alleviating,
so is Darnold though. So is Darnold.
I like Darnold better than Rosen. I think Darnold has shown more in the same in crappy circumstances as well. Darnold has shown more, so that's why I still think that he's above Rosen. But I do feel bad for Rosen. I hope he gets a long career as a backup, so he can at least make a little bit of money.
Tennessee, give him a call. I mean, on the practice squad.
I said at the
Logan
beginning of the
Woodside,
year that they should try to maybe get him if he's cut, and they went with Logan Woodside, and I don't get it. And I bet Titans fans who support him will feel different if he ever has to actually play a game or a couple quarters.
If Tannehill goes out this week for a half, I'm sure they're going to feel different.
Real quick,
real quickly. And so were Bills fans. I mean, the Bills didn't do a lot to back up Josh Allen. We saw last night with Dallas. They go in with a great backup, and nothing changes.
Win the game.
Win the game.
If you see Matt Barkley come in, he can hold his own. But I mean, it's just they're just not going to win any games. So the Bills did the same thing. They didn't really hedge their bet a lot with their backup quarterback position. But really appreciate you coming on and finally give us a score prediction and where do you think this game's going to go? What's your score in this one?
So I think it'll be a little bit closer than maybe Bills fans are hoping with the state of the Titans. I guess I have no other way to say it other than Mike Vrabel's a good football
player.
Yeah,
he is
a good coach.
And if there's any guy who could have his team ready to play in these circumstances, I believe that Mike Vrabel's one of the guys that could. I also think Sean McDermott is one of the guys that could, for the record. I don't know if you guys realize this, but I love the Bills. I love watching your guys' games.
He says he has 2 game plans this week, one for KC, one for
Unbelievable.
For Tennessee.
So
insane.
I like the way that the Bills are run. I appreciate the roster, too. I like what they're doing over there. So I was excited for this game, even when the season was announced. But I think that the Titans can keep it closer than maybe Bills fans want it to be. And I think that ultimately, though, the Bills get a score at the end and the Titans defense can't get a stop. I think it's 31-24.
Sounds close.
You're the
Can their fans
first...
be tomorrow, by the way? Is there fans allowed?
In Tennessee?
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to have fans because of the outbreak, but in
That's
Nashville,
true, yeah.
things are really strange
Yeah.
with the rules and whether they do this. There's a lot of debate, as I guess there is probably everywhere. So
Yeah, of
there
course.
could be fans by tomorrow. They could change it today.
But
You know, it's
originally
up in
they
the air.
did, right? Like
Yes.
prior to the outbreak? Okay.
Well, they had planned. They had made the plans
this
to
game,
let
right?
fans in. Yeah,
Okay.
but
Right,
they
yeah.
didn't have fans in their first 2 games,
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
and then. Well, obviously the one was at Denver, so Denver had fans, but Tennessee wouldn't have been able to have fans. And then they didn't have fans in their second game, and then they went on the road. When they came home, they were supposed to have a limited capacity, but I don't believe that they're going to have fans now because of the outbreak. But obviously,
Gotcha.
that's one of those
Yeah, that's
things that
smart.
I don't know if the team is going to ask for a change, make a change. It's kind of still up in the air.
Gotcha.
I don't think it makes a difference, though. And I think, quite frankly, the Titans are lucky that it's not a normal year with normal capacity, because anytime a team from the Northeast comes and plays in Tennessee, whether that be Philadelphia, whether that be Pittsburgh, or whether that be Buffalo, their fans invade Nissan Stadium and it's a away game for the Titans. So I think it benefits the Titans that
For
there's
sure.
a limited capacity, and there's already major controversy in Nashville because of the resale market, because everyone
Right.
is selling their tickets
Mhm.
There should
other
be, man.
fan
You guys should be
bases.
pissed.
Yeah.
You guys should be mad about
I
it.
mean, it's unfortunate, but at the end of the day, the counter to that is then you buy the tickets.
True.
So
Yeah.
I can't really say one way. I feel both sides, and
No.
that's all I can say. But yeah, I think it benefits the Titans, the fan situation. Obviously, you don't want to, it's bad. I wish there were fans. I wish things were normal. But
Of course.
from a football perspective, I think it doesn't hurt the Titans
Yeah,
that they don't have a normal crowd.
it's like when the
They-
Sabres play the Maple Leafs, and it's half Maple Leafs fans up here.
Canadians come in for
Yep.
like the weekend and
Easy
invade.
travel.
Yeah.
People want to go to Nashville. It's Nash Vegas. Blah, blah, blah.
Of course.
It's a perfect storm.
I love
Everyone knows
Nashville,
someone
by the
that's
way.
had a bachelor or bachelorette party there from up here. We get it.
Of course.
We get it.
We get it. It's a great city.
Business
We
is
all
down
love to
there
go
for
there.
that. Jake,
Yeah.
what do you got for the score? Wrap us up here.
We've been talking ASMR, so I'm going to say Bills 34, Titans 20.
That's probably close. Yeah, I mean, I like both your score predictions. I'll wrap it up by saying I think it is going to be the Titans are going to have some offensive success. It's the Bills make even games that they're beating good teams and uncomfortable, up 25 against the Rams, dominating the Rams, absolutely poured it on the Rams.
Yeah.
Potential top 4 NFC team just poured it on them. McVay looked terrible, and then they came roaring back in crazy fashion. Crazy game. I think the Titans do have a success offensively without Milano. Depends who plays. Like, once again, on both sides, really. The Bills could play everybody. The Titans can now or not, or vice versa. So we're going to have to see a little bit of that. But I have the Bills winning this one 38-128. I do think the Titans put up some points, play some good football, and say, look, we're success. Yeah, we didn't have our whole team. I want to play this game over with our whole team. So I think by playing this game, the Bills do catch a break. Titans catch like a little bit of a break too, I guess, in a way, by this game getting in. I don't know.
Just the game being played is a
yeah,
break enough
yeah,
for
exactly.
not only the Titans but for
Get it
for
over
all of
with.
us. I
not
do
have
want to say
reschedule it.
this last thing though is just I understand that Bills fans are frustrated with the circumstances and that it has negatively impacted teams who don't deserve quote unquote punishment in any way.
Yeah.
But I think that one thing is we do all have to step back at one time and just be happy that
It's
a
true.
season is getting played in the middle of a
Yeah.
public health crisis at minimum, a pandemic at best. So
Mhm.
I get it. I get the frustration. That's why I can't. If I was on the other side, I'd probably be upset too. But at some point, remember, I'm just glad that they're playing football.
Yeah, no,
That was really well
said.
said.
The Bills are just upset they're losing their KC game. I think that's all it comes down to.
Literally. I'm
I
so mad
understand.
about the Thursday night game,
I
but
understand.
That's what it comes down to. But
Mhm.
there wasn't going to be fans there. It wouldn't have been raucous like it would have
Exactly.
been. Flaming tables and whatever.
There could have been no KC game at all, too.
Yeah.
So, there's always that. But as a Titans fan, I've taken a beating for so long. Every friend I know is texting me, "Why are the Titans ruining the league?" So it's one of those things where at the end of the day, I always just say, "Well, at least we're playing football."
Well, you got a rational perspective about it, so I hope your friends let it up on you soon. And you're also the first guest on these crossover shows to pick the Bills to win. They are all, even the Jets guy was like, well, I mean, I gotta appease my own home fans. And we're like, all right, buddy.
I don't do that. That's in my opinion, that's one of the things that my listenership and my audience likes about me is I'm not too heavily or heavy-handed with my criticism,
Mhm.
but at the same time, I'm not going to be a homer and just always pick the Titans. I mean, I picked them to go 11-5, not 16-0, and I don't think you could trust anybody's analysis if they picked the team to go 16-0.
Yeah, 15-1 every year.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
of course,
right.
of
There
course.
you go. Now you're credible.
right.
Check.
Well, Tyler, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
If the Bills and the Titans make it into the playoffs, play each other, we'd love to have you on for a playoff matchup. Revisit this. But until then, any Titans fans, Bills fans wanting to get a leg up on the game for tomorrow, I'm sure Tyler's gonna have some stuff. Check him out on Twitter. For Kevin, myself, all of Trainwreck Sports. Go Bills. We'll see you tomorrow for the pregame show.